Welcome to the Political Insider, where we keep you up to date with what's going on. And you can't turn to a news channel without seeing the more news about the US strike on Iran, the one which has taken out most of the top leaders of that particular country. We covered it in a lot of detail yesterday. If you want to go and watch our take on the whole strike on Iran and what could happen, worth a watch. That came out yesterday. What can we update you with when it comes to the US strike on Iran? Well, the deafening silence from the SA government. Remember, this is the same SA government that 2 years ago invited Iran into BRICS. I don't know how India thought about it. They thought they were the only eye, but now we've got Iran into BRICS. We then did a whole lot of military maneuvers with Iran. We sent our head of our defense force to Iran. He was drinking champagne with Ayatollahs, telling him how we are going to assist Iran in every way. I presume that our one dinghy is on its way. The Oaks apparently are rowing like hell to get to Tehran to try and stop the American invasion. But we've seen nothing. Not a word other than the same sort of mealy-mouthed comment saying, violence doesn't lead to any kind of solution. Probably 10,000 years of history shows that violence often leads to a solution. It just also leads to a lot of dead people. I'm not sure when the government says violence isn't the answer, are they talking about this current strike or Iran's continual strikes over the last 40 years? Never sure what they mean when they say violence isn't the answer, when a country that has perpetrated violence for decades is the one being attacked at the moment. The Iranians continue to bomb the other Gulf states, which is not going to win them friends or influence people in that particular region. I do not see countries like the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia or Oman or any of the others saying, what's a good idea? Because you've just bombed our airport, you were right, we'll support you. Doesn't tend to happen. So I'm not sure about that tactic. And then lastly, the Iranians have announced that they've actually installed new leaders for the ones that have been killed to replace them. They're just very low on detail. And I can understand why. If I was one of those replacement leaders, I might want to be very, very quiet about it. If they could manage to get hold of the Ayatollah in his house, which one would imagine everybody would suspect was being surveilled, then I don't want to be announced as the new head of the defense force or something or else. You have to keep on checking your door and the sky above you. So not a fun time if you're an Iranian leader. And this story is going to play out. We'll keep you updated. Another piece of South African news that we've kept you updated with regularly has been the commissions, the various commissions looking into the allegations made by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in July last year. Well, the Madlanga Commission has got the problem that seems to be rearing its head is that the Madlanga Commission seems to be making a lot of people very ill. And the latest person to send in a sick note rather than to appear has been the one and only Brown Mokgotsi. Now, Brown Mokgotsi is running out of reasons not to appear. He was recently in the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. That's after he wouldn't go there because he felt unsafe and he wanted more security guards and mumbled his way through his testimony. Time for him to go back to the Madlanga Commission, and instead they get a message saying he is ill and a sick note will follow. I know that the Madlanga Commission is completely aware of the fact that this is a very bad look for the Commission, and they have the power to subpoena the doctors that are saying that these people are sick to explain just how sick these people are, because quite clearly the sick is just an excuse. People don't want to appear before the Madlanga Commission because those commissioners and evidence leaders have been ruthless. It's not like the parliamentary meeting, which has been partisan and people voting on their own ideological lines or questioning along ideological lines. Madlanga Commission is interested in the facts. And when you have got a BS artist like Brown Mokgotsi, who possibly has the correct name, he is going to get eaten up like he was the last time he went to the Madlanga Commission. Why are they getting him back? Because Mr. Mokgotsi can't hold his mouth, and he has a lot to say in the media when he's not at the commissions, and they're going to question him on that. There is an understanding here that people are going to go to jail because of the Madlanga Commission. This is not the Zondo Commission where there are no consequences. And the reason is simple. At the Zondo Commission, there were many senior people that were questioned and found to be breaking all manner of laws. But they had political cover. They had a majority, ANC majority party that was prepared to slow play it and do nothing about the commission's work. Somebody like a Brown Mokgotsi is too low down on the food chain. He will go to jail. He's not related to the president. He's not a member of parliament, right? It's the low-level guys, they're going to go to jail. Will we ever see a cabinet minister going to jail? I say, get on with your life. It's not going to happen. Don't even stress about it. We know that the politicians are going to protect their own. Right? Even somebody like Hangwani Maumela, the on and off nephew of the president, he's not going anywhere. So just understand, if you are Kat Matlala, you're going to jail. If you're Hangwani Maumela, you're not going to jail. It's just the way of the world. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on these commissions and let you know when something happens. I'll tell you when something is going to happen. And this is an important occasion for you to come and hear straight from the source. And that is this coming Friday on the 6th of March. Here in Sandton, we are going to have a breakfast with the DA's mayoral candidate, Helen Zille, and the well-known analyst Sandile Swana. They will be joining me on the panel at a breakfast. The details you can find on our website, sona.co.za, or down in the comment section below. But it's an event not to be missed. Come and join us. Come, I'd love to meet you. Let's shake hands, let's have a chat, and you can hear directly from those people. Not to be missed. Okay, so let's talk about our politicians' absolute lust to steal money from our healthcare system. Now, we hear this is an absolute beaut of a story. And there is no worse advertisement for Aaron Motsoaledi's much-loved National Health Insurance. And this is that continual flow of information that the comrades cannot stop stealing money that is earmarked for the creaking government healthcare sector. Now it emerges that senior health officials misuse donor money, right? They allocated money that comes from donors, in other words, international companies, not taxpayer money in this case, but hang on, we didn't get off lightly. They used donor money to give it to an 8-day-old company, bypassing their own procurement laws, bypassing good governance laws, everything. And what did they do with that money? The funds were then used to target a whistleblower who was about to expose or had exposed a 1.2 billion rand fraud in the Northwest Department of Health. There is some good news on this story, and that is that these senior health department officials were actually arrested yesterday. They literally, I know this is a shock because we live in South Africa, the country of no consequences, where officials and senior ones actually got arrested. There was a Director General of the National Department of Health, Sandile Buthelezi, a big fish, was arrested. So was the Chief Financial Officer, Phineas Mamachale, the Deputy Director General, Percy Matlati, and these people all appeared in the Pretoria Specialized Crimes Court yesterday. This is major news when it happens. But what did they do? They decided that they could get the money they needed so that they could hire an investigator and put in a disciplinary procedure, so investigate, get some dirt on the person who had made these allegations and discredit him. Who is the Global Fund? The Global Fund is an international organization that pools donor money from places like the Bill Gates Foundation and a few other of these foundations that are trying to help healthcare in countries like South Africa. The Global Fund has just allocated $402 million. That's nearly R1 billion to South Africa for the period 2025 to 2028 to help with things like AIDS, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, all of these dreaded diseases. The fund said, we will give you this money, use it wisely, and it has certain uses for the money. So instead, they go and give the money to an 8-day-old company to institute and investigate the Chief Director of Labour Relations, Advocate Maile Ngake, who had produced a report saying that there's a 1.2 billion rand fraud in the Northwest Health Department. The money was used to appoint a chairperson, an investigator, so that they could discredit the whistleblower. What happened to Advocate Ngake after he produced the report detailing this fraud? Well, surprise, surprise, he got suspended. Not the people that stole the money, but the whistleblower. This fact that the police then went to investigate and actually arrested the people that perpetrated this is a major move and a big change from what we saw in the Tembisa Hospital, where to this day, no officials from the Gauteng Health Department have been held to account for the 2 billion rand fraud from Tembisa Hospital. No government official has been put in the block. All we hear from is minor characters. We hear from the criminal syndicates themselves that perpetrated the crime. But they perpetrated the crime thanks to the complicity of politicians. And this must be the first time that we've seen the actual public servants that were responsible for facilitating this 1.2 billion rand fraud actually being held to account. I think this is massively good news and something we are going to watch very, very closely. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi lies again. At his recent State of the Province address, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi made a promise. You know, his big crisis has been water. And he even said in his contrition, you know, he says, water, don't think that they get special treatment as politicians. In fact, he has to go to a hotel just to have a decent bath. Let them eat cake. Lesufi said in his State of the Province address that the Brixton Water Tower, which is very important in the whole Johannesburg water system and has been under reconstruction because the thing had ceased to work after years of no maintenance. And he promised that it would be operational by this past Saturday. As we speak, it is Tuesday. And the tower remains offline and no closer to being put into service. Why is it offline? Because the Gauteng government hasn't paid contractors. They try to pump water through anyway, but the water was of such poor quality that they had to flush the water out twice. So this means that huge swaths of Western Johannesburg remain without water or have a very intermittent supply. Now this goes directly against what the Premier promised in his State of the Province address. But it's not just the Saturday deadline that was missed. This project was meant to be completed last year, but contractors have struggled to get paid by the Gauteng government throughout. I think it's time to revisit how the Gauteng government gets to govern, because the ANC, who rule the government as if they want it, is a minority government. It has 28 seats out of 80, and it does not have enough votes to be elected as the government. In actual fact, it only is in power because it was supported by the current Government of National Unity partners, including parties like the Democratic Alliance, Freedom Front Plus, etc., that had won seats in Gauteng, in the expectation of a proper provincial government of provincial unity. But then Panyaza Lesufi had other ideas. After he got the votes, because remember there's this ridiculously tight timeline of 2 weeks to create a government. So the vote gets held first, much like we saw in Parliament where the president got elected. In this case, the premier got elected, and thereafter the seats were meant to be divvied up between the partners. But Premier Lesufi had other ideas, and he reneged on the agreements that were made and decided that he was going to keep all 10 seats to himself. And then he decided to split off and create 3 real nonsense portfolios and then give them to minor parties. But he wasn't going to give any of the important portfolios to the GNU partners, especially the DA, which got 22 seats. Let's see how the Gauteng voting emerged after the 2024 general election. Well, as I said, the ANC won 28 of the 80 seats, the DA 22. EFF have got 11 seats, Umkhonto we Sizwe 8, Action SA 3, Patriotic Alliance and Freedom Front Plus have got 2 each, and the ACDP, IFP, Rise Mzansi and Build One South Africa have 1 seat each. That makes up the 80 seats. Now you've got this odd situation where Panyaza Lesufi was voted in by the Democratic Alliance primarily, but he's protected by the EFF and the Patriotic Alliance, which gives them 41 seats. So it's not even parties that are part of the GNU that are keeping him in there, but it's his partners that he likes to deal with that keep him in there. So, as I mentioned, the Gauteng government went from having 10 seats to having 13 seats, 10 of which are run by the ANC, and 1 each run by the IFP, Patriotic Alliance, and Rise Mzansi. And this deadlock has continued for the last 2 years. There was talk of a motion of no confidence. That didn't get any traction because they knew that the comrades were going to keep Panyaza Lesufi in power. But where the whole thing could come tumbling down is on March the 10th, a week from now, when the Gauteng head of finance, Lebogang Mahile, has to pass a budget. And that may not get passed, and that may bring the whole government tumbling down. We remember what happened in government last year when budgets became a problem. It's going to happen to Gauteng soon. And what is going to be the issue that brings everything down? It's going to be water. It's going to be fascinating to watch. We'll keep you updated. Thank you so much for joining us on Political Insider. Come and join us at our breakfast. Subscribe to the channel. See you again soon.